It's Dave Johan once again for Punch Out Boxing. Pleased to be joined by head honcho of TM14 Promotions, Jon T, also known as Jon Trethewey, for what is a massive announcement for July the 6th over at the Indigo. But before we do that, Jon, how you been? How's things? What's happening?
I'm good, mate. Good to see you. Yeah, keeping busy. Lots of shows as always, and then we've got this quite unique show we're doing that we obviously want to talk about at the O2 on July the 6th. Have you mentioned? All good.
I mean, before we head into that as well, April 27th, we're back at the York Hall for another great night of boxing. May the 25th, you're out again with Neilson Promotions as a joint collaboration. Are you seeing a bit of, should we say, camaraderie between Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren? Is that rubbing off on you guys on the medium hall circuit? More people working
Yeah,
together?
sorry. Yeah, so Mark Neilson reached out, and fair play to him, credit. He was like, look, other promoters on a much larger scale, like Frank and Eddie, are now working together. Appreciate they've probably got a bit of money coming from the Saudis there to make those fights happen. And that's a brilliant thing for the sport. And everybody's talking about it at the moment, the 5v5 against Queensbury and Matchroom. So it was like, why don't we just do something similar? I appreciate it's on a smaller scale, but fantastic at the level we're at. So I was like, yeah, let's do it. They're very professional, Neilson's. They conduct themselves very similar to how we do. We've all got the same aim and same goal, which is to put on an amazing show for these fighters and their friends and family and fans. But equally, it will be very competitive on the night because we'll both have our own fighters, 10v10, maybe 12v12. It holds 12 fights. We can have 12 there at the Indigo in the O2. So there might be a couple of fighters on there that aren't in 50-50s, but the majority of the card will be very, very stacked. And most fights are actually done, not yet announced for a few weeks, but it's going to be hopefully our biggest and best night for both teams.
I mean, both brands have been doing really well in terms of the small to medium hall market. You've got fans in seats and talking about some great shows. Both of you had some good write-ups in the boxing news as well. I know you're working together, but is there that competitive edge in terms of 12 versus 12, 10 versus 10, 5 versus 5, however you want to see? Is there still that competitive edge? My stable is better than your stable.
Not so much on the stables, if I'm honest. As I said, they're very professional. They're really good to work with. We've only been working with them now for a few weeks, but we've gone from having a small team, if you like, of probably like me, Mo, Aaron, and Eddie, our matchmaker, kind of making all the decisions together. And now you've got Mark, Kyle, Jared, that's their team. So all of a sudden you've gone from having 3 or 4 egos to about 7 or 8. And we've all got opinions, we've all got ideas. Sometimes I might think something, they might think something, Aaron might think something, and we have to find a middle ground on decisions on how we operate. I'm sure come fight night and the build up to it, the 50-50 fights, there will be some competitive bits in there. We got a lot of fighters that obviously are used to fighting for us, and likewise so does Mark. So on the night, I'm sure we'll have a little wager on maybe do something for charity to see who wins there as well. But that bit will be a bit of fun. But what you will see, hopefully, is the best show we've ever done and the best show they've done. The fact that we've gone to the Indigo at the O2, it holds 2,500 people. It's a different venue from York Hall. York Hall is home for us, and Neilson's used it a lot as well, but it's somewhere different for these fighters to be able to say to people, when you're paying your hard-earned money, you come out. I'm sure for anyone watching who's been to the O2, they'll know about the 30 or 40 bars and restaurants around the arena. I believe the Killers are on at the same weekend. So yeah, it'll be great to be part of that. And we've already got some great plans set up for it, which I won't give away yet. We're a big press conference, something very unique with the launch of the show that won't have been done. And I'm hoping that when people see the actual card in a few weeks, when it's announced, it'll be a little bit like, wow.
In regards to the Indigo, you were there as a fan, and now you're putting on your show there. How does that sink in? I mean, you've done this at the York Hall. I mean, you've ticked off that box for myself as well. You got me involved on the commentary side, so commentating at the York Hall was a great and unique experience. I've done it a few times. Brentwood Centre as well, but the O2 is something special, isn't it? Because it's different. I mean, you're putting on a show there with Neilson. You've been there as a fan, and now you're potentially going to be selling it out. How does that has that resonated with you?
Yeah, it's a good question. It has resonated. I think the promoter scene in the south of the country, if you like, is very competitive at the moment on the small to medium, as you say. There's a lot of us out there that want to be number one. There's a lot of us out there with egos. We all try and sort of like put on the best shows with the best production or the best cards, more titles than others, etc., etc. So that's fantastic. But to actually then go and do it, as you say, at the O2, we want to be bigger than what we can. We try and raise levels or do better. To actually try and even think about doing it at the O2, albeit it's the Indigo that's inside the O2, but that holds 2.5, maybe even 3,000, which is probably a good 1,500 more than what your call's meant to hold. So you can see there, plus is the prestige of being in the O2 is fantastic. And you're right, as a fan, I've been to shows there when I used to work in the media with you. I think you sent me down. You were my boss. You sent me down. I think I did an AJ Usyk fight one way in there in the Indigo. So to actually go
media workout, wasn't it?
Yeah, I remember it well. Yeah, and I did a site visit at that venue at the O2 2 weeks ago with Mark Neilson and his nephew Kyle, who is a massive part of the team. And just being in there and thinking, doing a show in here is a big thing. And if we pull it off, which I'm sure we will, it'll be a good feather in our cap. And we'll look forward to it. Stressful already, and we're about 12 weeks out, but it's a bit different from doing a Your Call show because it's not as big. There's not as many 50-50s. There's not as much to do. It's a venue we're used to. So we've got to get all the things right in advance here. Some of the things sort of like pieced together on Your Call after you've announced a card. And you know what you've done when you've done like 25 events at Your Call or whatever it is now. That actually we actually getting all this right is going to take a lot of time, but we got a lot more manpower working together. It has its pros and its cons, and the pros definitely is that there's more manpower, so someone else can pick something up if someone else can't, and we're all busy, we've all got jobs as well, so it makes the work boxing life balance, sounds weird, it's meant to be work home life, isn't it? What's that? But work boxing life balance makes it a bit easier that there's a few of us that can support.
I mean, it's really pleasing as well to see your trajectory. Also Mark Neilson as well, and another friend of the show, Johnny Clark as well. All three of you going in the upward direction from strength to strength, and it's pleasing to see you. You're all working together as well in some capacity, because I know you've shared fighters with Johnny before, and various fighters go on different shows, and Mark's in the mix with you now, which is great. I mean, without blowing up egos and so on and so forth, you're at 3,000 capacity. Wembley Arena is round about 9 and a bit of change, maybe 10. Do you think that could be the next step? Because it's, anything's a possibility, isn't it, in this game?
I think they're the dreams, everything. But if you'd have asked me when I did my first one 2.5 years ago nearly now, which was at Northampton, which you were helping them and a part of on that night, we just wanted to do one show to see how we got on. If you'd have said that night, well, you'd have done 20 plus in the next 2 years at Your Call, and then you'd be looking to do a show at the O2, I probably would have maybe not laughed because I'm ambitious, but I'd have taken that with both fans, definitely. So yeah, it's good that we're getting there. It's also good to work together. You just mentioned about Mark and Johnny. Promoters should work together. If you isolate yourself, sadly, as you'll see at elite level, the right fights don't get made. We manage a certain fighter, and I was asked to put that fighter on top tier for a title fight, where normally you'd think, well, why would I give a title fight to another show? But that fighter wanted to go on there. It was closer to home. The title fight was right for that show, so we were happy to do it. And I'd like to think vice versa. Certainly now when it comes to Mark, we're going to do a few shows together. So he'll have fighters, we have fighters. What it means is there's more opportunity for some 50-50s. There's more opportunities to improve the card. We announced the February show was the best one we've ever done at TM14, in my opinion. It certainly had the most ticket sales. It certainly made the most money. It certainly had the best fights and the most titles on it. We've announced the April 27th one, and that's a really strong card with a lot of the same fighters on it. Last night we announced the May the 25th card, and I had people saying that the level of that's better than the April and the February one. I'm not so sure it is, but there are some amazing fights on there and some amazing fighters. And yet we've still got the July one that's coming. And before that, we've got another one at Your Call in June that we haven't even started penciling together yet. Maybe there's a couple of names on that. So you need to work together so that you can give the customer the best value for money.
No, it's going to be a great night. I mean, the dates that you've mentioned, we'll post out in the comment section and also in the description. But John, just before we wrap things up, for those that don't know about TM14s, what are your handles? Where can people follow you? And any shout outs?
Yeah, well, we're on Instagram is our main platform on there, so it's just at TM14 Promotions. We are on Facebook, although we don't really use it. We need to get better on X or Twitter, as people want to call it, or whatever. We're not too good on that, but we are on there. But yeah, you can get that, and if you want any tickets, you can find out from our Instagram profile where to get them, or you can get them direct from the fighters. But lots of shows coming up, lots of announcements. We've got some sponsors, and hopefully over the next couple of days, some big news on some broadcasters as well. So trying to raise the levels and keep growing and keep learning, enjoying it.
Good stuff. Just very finally as well, and I say very finally as well. But in regards to the show on July the 6th, and to be fair as well, if we backtrack and we go to April 27th and also May the 25th as well, in terms of fight announcements, you've made some fight announcements for what's happening on May the 25th. When are you going to announce with Mark what's going on July the 6th? Who are the combatants going to be?
Yeah, good question. So the May the 25th got announced last night. Really pleased to have a headline on there for a southern area and hopefully an English eliminator between Louis O'Doherty, whose stock has gone through the roof after his last fight with Marley Mason, and Jeff Afori. Loads of people talking about that. We've also got on there Billy Jackson against Desinia Byfield. That's a fantastic fight. And then we got Muji Haji against Ricky Rowlands, which is another fantastic 50-50 with, as usual, a stacked undercard. The April one's great. It's got the usual people on there as well. As for the July one, the plan will probably be to announce that. I don't mind letting that out of the bag on the 28th of April, which is the day after our show. Next show at York Hall, one or two of those fighters on there, providing they come through unscathed, will go on that big show at the O2. And then hopefully we'll have some announcements about a good press conference and a launch. But that'll be when we announce it. We will probably announce at the time who's on whose team as well. That's a good question. Hadn't really thought about that, but we will certainly announce the full card. The planned date will be the 28th of April.
Absolutely brilliant. John, all the best as always from Punch Out Boxing, and we will catch up with you soon. Cheers, mate.
Thanks, Dave. Yeah, good catching up.